Well, the biggest game of the weekend in college football, without question, is LSU at Texas A&M. I mean, can you imagine Kyle Field on Saturday night, 6:30 Central? It's going to be rocking. It's always rocking, but there's a lot at stake in this game. And Andrew Monaco is the voice of the Aggies. As we go to him there, you can see all the Aggie stuff behind him. Andrew, you got to be pumped up about not only this game Saturday, but the whole season, the way it's unfolding.
It really has. This first season of Mike Elko has been special. I think that anticipation was building in week one when Notre Dame was coming in. It's one thing when it's the Irish. It's another thing when you have a brand new coach, and he's the architect of what has happened this season. And he's familiar with Texas A&M, so he's back in Kyle Field, where he had a lot of success before going to Duke, where he had success as well his first time as a head coach. And, Doug, I think it's been building each week. I thought the road win at Florida was a key part of this team's growth. They hadn't won since 2021 on the road, a true road game. And then the test, Missouri comes in at number 9, and Brady Cook says, well, it's louder at our practice. And the 12th man was there to say, this is how loud Kyle Field can actually get. Now add LSU, which has become a rival since A&M has gone into the SEC. They were rivals in the past, but they were non-conference rivals. They share the border. They share that Sabine River, right? They come into each other's state for their recruits. And now you're going to black out Kyle Field. They're going to wear the black uniforms on Saturday. To me, it's a little bit of the echoes of when LSU has been back on Saturday nights as well. Great anticipation. And I think the other thing is you can see the growth of this team. Are they where they want to be, Doug? No, but you have to like being 6-1 right now and improving. It's been a heck of a first season so far for Mike Elko with so much more work to be done.
You know, Andrew, it is interesting. LSU loses their opener to USC, and they've seemingly gotten better each and every week. Some exciting games, obviously, along the way. And you guys lose your opener to Notre Dame, as you mentioned. And you guys have clearly, in my mind, gotten better each and every week. Now, Coach Elko may disagree with that, but I just see the upward climb for this Texas A&M team. Andrew, and they remind me a lot of Georgia, especially defensively. Offensive line is great. But you guys are fast, aggressive, nasty. Am I seeing this? Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, and we kind of knew that you were going to have that in a Mike Elko type team.
Yeah.
Now, Jay Bateman is the defensive coordinator. They're absolutely on the same page. But that was so fun watching a Mike Elko defense for 4 years get better with that understanding. They seem to have that understanding a little quicker week by week this season. So, yeah, it's been fun. Doug, as you know, defense is something special at Texas A&M. He was never afraid to refer to the wrecking crew from years past, R.C. Slocum and Jackie Sherrills. But he knows in this day and age of college football, it can be very difficult to have that. But he's not afraid to bring up anything like that because he loves the history and the tradition of all of that. You knew the defense was going to be good. Let's be honest here. The cupboard wasn't bare when Mike came here, for sure. But I love he's added impact players from the transfer portal and impact players from high school in recruiting, and they've really fit. I think that's the thing is that they fit. But no, you can see that defense. And the D-line starts everything here. And that D-line is a problem. And that's where I agree with you, that analogy of Georgia. Then you add with Georgia absolutely dynamic linebackers and then a secondary that can cover. And they were very comfortable in that Kirby Smart system. You're starting to see this team get comfortable. And I'll go back to what you said at the beginning. I think A&M and LSU are very similar in that first week loss, which would have killed you in the past, Doug, and you'd have been out, right, of any Final Four in a college football playoff. There was so much more to play for. And you can see both these teams growing coming into this matchup on Saturday.
You know, Andrew, I want to talk about Coach Elko a little bit more because he's an interesting guy in my mind. 47 years old, a New Jersey guy, graduated from Penn. And if you look at his resume, I mean, he's been a DC everywhere. I mean, defense is his game. And when game day was down there, he got with Coach Saban, and it looked like they were just two guys having a great time breaking down film there. And I guess he's still the defensive guy, even though he's not the coordinator. I mean, he kind of, and you mentioned R.C. Slocum. He's bringing in kind of this no-nonsense, let's get down in the dirt and be more physical than teams, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. You have to have an understanding of what they do, and the beauty is I don't want to say simple, right? But it's a 4-2-5. But you never know where the pressure's coming from. That's the beauty, I think, of an Elko defense that we saw for the 4 years when he was here before, and now again, Jay Bateman was doing that at Florida. Sean Spencer was doing that with the defensive line at Florida. Sean Spencer coached with the New York Giants. Where does everyone want to go when they're in college football? They want to go to the league, right? So you have guys who can get you there. Yeah, Mike has always been that defensive guy, and he cut his teeth. Again, back to the eerie similarities, right? Brian Kelly was at Grand Valley State. Then he was at Central Michigan, and then he was at Cincinnati, right? And then he goes to Notre Dame. And who was his defensive coordinator? Oh, that's right. It was Mike Elko. Right. But Mike had kind of done the same thing. Richmond, Bowling Green is where he was the first time as a D1 defensive coordinator. Notre Dame, Texas A&M, he goes to Duke. So the rise through both of them. But you have to have the understanding. It's not easy in a Mike Elko defense. But the one thing his former players said when he was hired is Mike is the best adjuster we've ever been around. When you get to halftime, he's going to tell you exactly what you're doing wrong. He's going to tell you what you're doing right, and then make those adjustments in that second half. But they like it because it can be aggressive without being reckless. It can be aggressive. But it starts with the talent, Doug. You've got to have the talent to be able to do that. You can say all you want to do, but when you have talent. Nick Scorton is a problem on the edge. Cassius Al is as well. But I truly believe, and having seen some players here at Texas A&M, that interior of the line with Albert Regis, with Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart goes on that edge as well. That interior is like Nnamdi Madubuike we just saw with the Baltimore Ravens, and he got paid, right? McKinley Jackson has been here. Bobby Brown has been here. You can see that interior, which is becoming an important part on that defensive line, playing in concert, and that aggressiveness, I think, why the defenders love to play for Mike Elko, and this season love playing for Jay Bateman.
Yeah, I hope our audience is listening to you, Andrew, because this is not hyperbole. This is a Texas A&M team that has a lot of talent, and they've kind of been set free with Coach Elko, and they're older. They're old, and you throw in a few transfers. This is the real deal. Now, LSU, on the other hand, pretty good themselves, and they're getting better. Andrew, break it down with the two quarterbacks now, because ultimately it's going to come down to who plays better. Kyle Field is a tough place to play, but Nussmeier has proven that he comes up big in hostile environments. And, of course, your guy, Connor Wegman, now that he's healthy again, I think he's played really, really well. So, again, it comes down to quarterbacks here, right?
Yeah, it does. And with that, they never can have success. I love what you said. The two offensive lines really allow Nussmeier and Wegman to have that success. This is an LSU line that is experienced, huge as always, but the experience. If there was ever a little bit of an Achilles heel for them, it was that lack of experience. But if you didn't get them early, you knew
right.
They were going to grow together. And it's the same names, right? And that they've been units. And for Texas A&M, that's the same thing. That offensive line is giving Connor Wegman time and opening those holes for Le'Veon Moss, Amari Daniels, E.J. Smith to run through. Nussmeier's a great story, right? He's the kid. He was the golden boy when he gets there, but he sits. And then he's the golden boy next year, and he sits. But every time they needed him, he came through. But give an awful lot to the patience, because in this day and age, kids leave, right? I'm not getting my way, I'm gone. I'm not getting playing time, I'm gone. He sat there. So he's absorbed that offense. Now, look, we saw that offense from Notre Dame because Mike Denbrock was there at LSU last year.
Right.
But that learning and absorbing and leading, that's the other thing. Great arm talent, right? And you've got Lacey as one of your receivers. Mike Elko says he's a great number one. But if you try to take him away, their other receivers are just too good, and they're going to kill you. So there's that balance. And he knows where to get that ball and who to get it to. Connor Wegman being healthy is the key.
Yes.
He has had, last season was cut short in week number 4. He's become a gamer and more of a leader. And I think the wideout talent is a little bit better and a little bit deeper. And you can see that rapport that they have with one another. But to me, it always comes down to that line. Can that line give him the time? When they can do that, he goes through the progression. And then you see that arm talent that Connor has he can get it out very quickly and very accurately.
You know, it is interesting, and you hate to say this line is the best, but in my mind, the Texas A&M offensive line is the best in the SEC right now. LSU, with those tackles, they're getting better, but and again, Andrew, I mean, I hate to throw it out there, but the O-line for Texas A&M, I mean, they're playing some really, really solid football right now.
It's funny, every week Mike Elko comes into his media availability and he talks about who the team picks as their offensive lineman of the week, defensive lineman, offense, defense, special teams. And
right.
Every week he jokingly says, and once again this week it's left tackle Trey Zune, who has been an absolute anchor there. Huge kid from Colorado whose parents were Aggies, but they moved there. He was coming back. Another key, he has been healthy as well. Solid center play. I think the two transfers have been really good. Koli Fayu coming from Utah, and when you talk about Utah, they have to have an offensive line as well under Kyle Whittingham, right? They like to run, they like to protect the passer, and Armaje Reed-Adams has been a very big key as well at right guard. But they have come together. Again, a lot of the guys on this offensive line were here in the past. And that's the other thing, Doug, about Mike. Mike either coached or recruited a number of these players on both sides of the ball, because you always ask your defensive coordinator to look at the offensive tape and say, he's going to be a problem for RD during practice. That, I think, helped, I don't want to say accelerated, because there's still a lot of things that he wanted to build in the 8 months leading up to the opening kickoff. But I think that familiarity absolutely helped. He knew a number of players in that locker room. He knew who he was recruiting. He was joking about two of his linebackers he wanted at Duke. Praetorian York picks Texas A&M. He wanted Damian Sanford at Duke. So it makes me kind of chuckle. It's like, I guess he tells Torian and Damian Sanford, his two current linebackers, thank you for telling me no while he was at Duke.
Yeah, it's fascinating, the connections. Of course, it's the Southeastern Conference. All these guys have coached one place or another. You know, I'm reminded, Andrew, of your old friend, my old friend, Gene Stallings, former Texas A&M coach, great coach at Alabama, now back at Paris, Texas, 89 years young. And he famously always said, to win these games, you got to run the football, you got to stop the run, you got to win the giveaway takeaway battle. Boy, that's Texas A&M to a T. And I really believe they're going to try to jam it down LSU's throat and establish that run. And it's hard to run against A&M. That's how I see it breaking out, especially at Kyle Field. What do you see on Saturday night?
Doug, we're in 2024, and we're still talking that's the recipe for success, right? I don't think it ever changes. I think you have to do all of that. And Coach Stallings is an absolute legend for sure. And I'm so glad that he's back in the state of Texas for him and on that ranch, right, in Paris, Texas, as you talked about. Yeah, they have to establish that run. And Le'Veon Moss has been a revelation. Very bad news in the camp when Reuben Owens went down. So next man up, right, to use that cliche. And Le'Veon has always wanted to be a number one back, but he changed his body to be that bellwether back. Now, I think Amari Daniels is a really good changeup. The numbers will not jump out at you, but he's going to be that frustrating running back. Amari is very good at positive yards. The Aggies are very good. We talked about that offensive line. That line has only allowed 7 sacks, and that will be tested on Saturday. Very few negative plays as well. And you know, negative plays are the difference between second and long or third and long, or if you keep getting positive yards, third and manageable. So that's been the key. But Le'Veon has run hard. I think his yards after contact have been amazing. He's very hard to bring down. And yeah, you're going to have to run, because if you try to become one-dimensional against any school in the SEC, but especially LSU, their talent on the back end is really, really good. It always has been. They might be more athletic than the wideouts. You can become one-dimensional and you're in trouble. Look, LSU holding Arkansas to 10 points is, in Fayetteville, huge, right? So you're seeing them come together. Yeah, to me, it's strength versus strength on Saturday, right? And whose strength is going to come through. I love those matchups within the matchup is going to be key. But I'm with you, Doug. I think they're going to have to establish the run, because if not, and you're going to have to do it against great linebackers. LSU loses Harold Perkins, and now you have the weeks at linebacker as well as Greg Penn III, who wears the coveted 18. Their linebackers are great. As you know, linebackers are great when the D-line does the job. Again, a fascinating matchup, I think, throughout all of Saturday nights.
Well, it's going to be fantastic, and I really believe Georgia now is going to be there in Atlanta, and the winner of this game, in my mind, has the inside track, not getting ahead of ourselves, because I'm looking at the schedule, and A&M, you got to go to South Carolina, to Auburn, and don't look past that, and then, of course, that little game against Texas at the end of the year. But Saturday night is key, I think, for either team to maybe, and not just the SEC championship, but the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I said when I said at the top about usually those opening week losses kill you, right? There was so much for all the teams to play for. Like, I love those matchups, Doug. I think we should have more of those in college football. But you shouldn't be so heavily penalized for a loss, especially in week one. And not to make an excuse for A&M, new team, right? To do that, new head coach, not necessarily new schemes, but with Colin Klein, it's different from what was being done in the past in the Aggie offense. But yeah, it does become important. Mike started his media availability on Monday and said, LSU's a great team and we have an opportunity. And I thought that was key, because that's the way he's been. This is the opportunity. You can look ahead all you want. And we do that as fans. Look, schedule comes out in the offseason. We start circling games that we can't wait for. And Mike has said, and he said this during the bye week, look, all that we can control is the 6 inches in front of our face. I think that's that mindset, right? And he's not afraid, though, Doug. He's not afraid to say, hey, here's our opportunity, but how are we going to get there? How are we going to sustain the success that we got? We've got to be who we are, our brand of football. We've got to be more physical. He uses the word like strain, effort, grind. You know, if you're going to have that on a Saturday, by the strain, effort, and grind that you're giving on the week during practice. And for both of these teams, how can your offense not get better going up against your own team's defense? And now your defense, it's got to get better, because all the defensive guys go, yeah, Connor Wigman was on the sideline, but we know what he does against us every day. Marcel Reed's not a surprise. We see what he does every day. Albert Reed just said, I was glad to see Marcel do that to some other team and not just us on defense. So that's how I feel how LSU's D has to be about Garrett Nussmeier going, well, Nussmeier gets to do this now against A&M on Saturday, not against us. But, yeah, I do think it's important. And I think that's kind of the fun part. I think we thought with the 12 team, we may not have things like this. But I like what Mike said. There's now 28, 30 teams that know they have a chance to get in that field of 12. So, yes, it seems every game is becoming even more important as we do this. But Mike is very, very good about saying, hey, this is what's in front of you. Yes, there's the other stuff, but we can't do anything about that until we take care of our business that's right in front of us. And for him, that will be the first snap on Saturday, not even the game on Saturday. It'll be that first snap. And I think when you talk about the growth, what you're seeing that, I think, from both of these schools, but definitely from Texas A&M. I think they're ahead of schedule from where he thought he might be, but he's fine now. And the other thing is expectations change, and I think this is a team that will embrace that as well.
And Kyle Field is going to be absolutely. If you've never been there, oh my goodness, Andrew, it is going to be. It's like a little mini earthquake when you guys get it cranking in
there. It actually does shake, right? It does shake, but I feel good because it's an engineering school. So
there you go.
I have said this, and Doug, there are many places around the country that I think are bucket list places for college football fans. I think Kyle Field is one of those. I'm very fortunate to do 7 Saturdays there. If it's a Saturday night, it's even more special. Yes. I do believe it's become that. And look, the other thing is, throughout the SEC, why is Bryant Denny so hard to play in? That talent on the field, right? Yes. Why is Georgia so hard? Sanford Stadium, that talent on the field. Now you have the combination of what could be 105,000, 107,000 on Saturday with that talent on the field. I think it's one, if you just want to experience all that is Texas A&M football, I think it's a great pageantry as well for all of it for college football. I've learned that in the last couple of years it really is one of those bucket list type places for college football fans.
It's incredible. And, it's funny. It holds a little over 104,000, Kyle Field. And yet you guys will have like 108,000 there on Saturday. Yeah. You always jam an extra few thousand here and there.
Once again, engineers know how to, and marketing people. Right? We've got a business school as well. We've got the Mays Business School. We know how to do that. The other thing, Doug, I can't go without saying that it's a 38,000 seat student section. They're already lined up around Kyle Field for ticket pull for that.
Wow.
And when you think about it, I know Jimbo Fisher said this in the past, and Mike has said it in the past. Like, that's more than some stadiums. The 38,000 would fill up some other stadiums in college football, not in the SEC. I get that, but they're there. They stand. They want to be loud. They think they can make a difference. The 12th man always knows that they can make a difference, not just on offense. There's a buzz in that place.
Yes.
It's third down and it's defense. And again, like I said, it's almost the echoes of that wrecking crew, which has been really fun to see under Mike Elko.
Yeah, it's been fun. Andrew, thanks for getting us fired up and revved up, and look forward to watching it on Saturday night. And you know what? We may even dial in a little TexasA&MAggies.com. Listen to your audio. Why not? Because I got a feeling you'll be excited.
Just a tad. Just a tad. Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, bud.